Welcome to the Smart Woodshop. As my viewers know, I'm working on the Paulk Total Station Ultralight, and it's pretty much taking all of my time. Take a few minutes here and there to show you a tool or kind of show you what's going on, but I'm really working hard on finishing the total station, working all the bugs out, recording the whole process, and I'll be making an entire video series on making the Paulk Total Station Ultralight from beginning to end. But I have to do one thing before another. So I have to finish the bench, work out all the bugs, which I'm doing as I go, and then I have to go back to the office and I have to take the plans, which I have made tons of notes on, and I'll have to do the as-builts, and part of the notes are corrections. Other parts are just not very clear, and I want to be as clear as possible. Also, there's some changes, some modifications that I made in the field as I go. In fact, one of the things I did was completely redesign the sawhorses, but I wanted to test them out and make sure they were going to work before I changed them in the plans. So I've got to do that. I'm pretty excited about those. So what I thought I would do here real quickly is show you the status of the Paulk Total Station, what I'm working on next, and also give you a little quick look at the shop and how I'm shooting this. So I've got the GoPro camera going here, the Hero 7. I have the main camera. This is the camera that records the audio. I have the high-end audio, the wireless mics going to that. And then I have up there, I have the ceiling cam. Now this is a new camera. It matches this camera. This is kind of a high-end pro camera from Sony. This is kind of their entry-level pro camera. And then this one is a 4K camera from them, but it's more of a prosumer camera. It's not super high-end. I think, it's about a $1,000 camera, where this one was way more than that. And so, but the video and audio link up so much better than when I was using the GoPro up there, because the GoPro 4K breaks files up to 8-minute files. This camera goes on continuously, so I have to stitch all these together, then I have to sync the audio so that I can go back and forth. The cool thing about these two is that the files are the same length, so when I sync them up, they work really well. So let's take a look at what I am working on. I'll keep the audio going with this one, but I'm going to take the video from this camera. So this is the new Sony that I've had for a couple of weeks, and not all of the videos for the total station will be with this, but the ones that come later on will have this, which is great. And what's neat about it is that it wirelessly hooks up to my iPad, so you can see my iPad here, what the camera is seeing. So you can see that it's recording, and I can zoom in and make adjustments to it right from the iPad. And what's really cool about the Sony cameras, both my still cameras that I use in my photography business, as well as these video cameras, come with it built in. So I don't have to buy any extra hardware or software. It's a Sony thing, and it works great with the iPad, and I believe the Android ones as well. But the other thing I just added was this crane. And getting the camera up in the air and making adjustments to it was a hassle using a light stand. It took a lot of time. And so with this one, I can come in and I can raise it up, lower it down. Plus, once I get it to where I want it, then there's a handle here that I can adjust the camera. I'm doing this one-handed because I'm holding the GoPro, so it's a little harder, but I can tilt the angle of the camera and get it just where it's going. So I'm still working the bugs out, but as soon as I have a little more time and just time in the field with it, I think you're going to like the video better. Okay, now let's take a look at, I also put this camera with a light. I got bigger batteries for this camera and that one. Fortunately, they use the same battery, so I got I got the stock batteries, but I've got some really big batteries that I no longer have to plug them into the wall to shoot all day. Also, I got larger SD cards. These are, because they're 4K video, they're faster cards. Not something you can get at Costco. They're kind of professional, so they're a bit more expensive. But I had to get larger ones because I would run out of, when I was using just 64 gigabyte, they would run out and I wouldn't notice. And so then I'd miss parts of what I was recording. So I got larger cards, larger batteries, and I got wheels. Both the crane is on wheels, so I can move it around nice, quickly and easily, so that when I am moving from one station to another, it's easy for me to roll. So that's all disconnected. It's just on a battery, and I just roll it on its wheels. And the same with this main camera here, so I can quickly move it around and change my camera angle to what I need. So there it is. This is the total station. The bench itself is done. A lot of remodeling to it. As with all of my benches, I end up with the prototype. Now, the Paulk Total Station, the predecessor, which will continue to be available because there's some differences and some people still prefer that. So when I put this up, there will be two Paulk Total Stations, the PTS, and I believe I'm going to call this the PTSU or the PTS2. You'll know, though, this will be made with the Moreland Ultralight plywood. So I've made some modifications to it. It's the same general bench. It's a little narrower and a little shorter because I went total metric. I went to the 32 millimeter system. The holes are all drilled. I used the PARF guide, and you'll get to see that in the video. So these holes are CNC quality. They are 96 millimeters apart, exactly 96 millimeters to center from the edge and from the ends and the layout. And then when I drill the holes in the miter fence, once I put that on, the series of holes running out there will be lined up with these. And I've got a great idea that it'll be a separate video of an accoutrement I'm going to build, a fixture that's going to plug into those with bench dogs. And anyway, you'll have to see that once I work the bugs out on that. So it's pretty well set up in that I've got the miter saw, and I've got it so that it will completely go through its full range of motion. What I did was I had calculated the cutout, but then I made a jig for this, and I made the cutout a couple of inches less than I needed, and then I fit the saw, and I worked my way into it, and I got it down to bare minimums. It looks like there's a little more room back than there actually is because I accounted for the complete tilt and turn of the saw, which makes this corner go back a little further. So I've got all of that covered. I ended up having to make the base twice. I made it. It's got a little drop in, just like the predecessor, so that the saw will, once it goes to where it goes, it's fixed in, and there's a little dado under there. And I had done that on the other side, and then I needed to adjust the spacing on the saw, so I ended up flipping it around and just reusing the same piece, but flipping around, making a new dado, and remounting the saw. So that's the kind of give and take and working the bugs out. The other thing I did was these stands here. They are now two-sided. So rather than having just the shelves here to hold material just on the miter saw side, I put them on the bench side as well. And the reason I did that was that a lot of times I am ripping and cross-cutting, and I'm using my tracks, and I have material over there. But what I needed to do was because I was not going to have that full spacing of the legs to that side, I wanted to make sure they were strong. And so I did it, and they are. I've stood on the bench, so no problem with that. And I also added little feet on the bottom. I did some cutaways, and I just don't know why, but floors are never perfect, so I think the contact points not being continual across the bottom is a little bit of improvement. So I'm pretty happy with those. They're pretty stiff. They're made out of 18 millimeter. This is the side that the table saw goes on, so it no longer has the support for the table saw. One reason for that is the table saw that I used when I built the first Total Station was a smaller DeWalt, And I have gone to the much larger, heavier saw stops. The bench would have no problem holding them up. It's just so big trying to get the pipes in, and I want the saw offset to the right for outfeed purposes, that coming up with a mount for it would be a little more complicated, possible, I think, but the main reason that I have decided not to do that with this bench or any of my future benches or updated benches is because I've gone to the saw stop. It's a bigger saw, and lots of my subscribers and people who buy the plans have bigger saws, and they're just heavy. Even though they're portable saws, a lot of them come with stands, and the saw stock comes with a gravity rise stand. You just flip it and it comes right up. It's wheels, and I just don't want to lift it up and store it in the smart woodshop trailer anymore. I just roll it down the aisle, and of course I have two saws, and so it's nice that the bench is set at the same height, the 36-inch standard shop height, which is adjustable with the spreading of the sawhorses in a minute amount. And so, you know, I just flip the saw down, and I put these, I made these cutouts for things like miter saw, just like I had on the previous one, but these are a little wider, mainly because I measured multiple different saws on the market, and the spacing is close but not identical. So this wider run out helps work with multiple saws. But I can plop the saw here, and then when I use my crosscut jig or something like that, the bench won't stop it, won't bump into it. On this side, I have the cutout to drop the router into, the big 3 horsepower router, 3.5 horsepower router, and be able to clamp my fence right here, just like with the predecessor. And then I have the 3/4 run out. I did this without the track that you can buy for that, just like with the Total Station. I can do it with wood and work just as well and save a few bucks. So what's next is to work on the miter fence. So I've got 2 sections. I've got the section that goes permanently on the bench, and then I have the extension that gives me those full accurate cuts that I need when I'm doing trim. So what I'm going to do, because I have to figure out how I'm going to connect it. If you've been following along, you know that I've tried a few different things, and I finally, in SketchUp, and I came down to the shop, tried a few things, and I decided, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move forward, get the bench done, get to this point, and then make it work, and then on the plans put exactly what it is. So what I'm going to do is make up a mock-up, something like this, that will just fit in this location, and it'll have, the top will stick out further than the bottom, so it'll be something like that. And then I'm going to work on a short section of the extension and figure out how they're going to connect so it draws tight, so that when I put my T-track in here, that the stop will move smoothly across it and be accurate when it jumps from this one to that one. So that will be what I do next, is make those mock-ups, get that clamping system done, and exactly how I'm going to build it. And then I can build these out, and they should go pretty quick. I'll be using an actual T-track that I got from ClampU Systems, and that will be a little smoother, I think, than the wood T-track that I've made on the previous ones. It drives cost up a little bit, but I really think it's worth it. And then I'll have the tape measure to go on as well. So some modifications to that. And one other cool thing, this is a mock-up of the best fence from FastCap. Now, this is not the current one available. The one available has the back that comes up on it, and the way the stop goes on the back. And that's the reason I don't use the best fence, because they don't work for me. I don't need that back. It adds absolutely no accuracy, nothing. There's no advantage to having the back up, because I don't put material against it. All the material goes against the fence on the saw, and that's all the fence I need. The rest of it is I need a track just to have an accurate stop. And so I've asked them to redesign, and so this is their mock-up. They did this on a 3D printer, and of course it would be made out of aluminum, but I don't know if they're going to follow through. It's very expensive to do this. They're pretty invested in the other system, so it's a big change for them. But if they do, then the fence that I put in here that'll be wood with the metal T-track on it, I'm going to not glue that in place. I'm going to screw it from underneath, and then this could drop right in. So it will fit exactly where this fits, and of course it would extend close to the saw just the way this is going to do. And then I would do it in each side in 2 sections. I'd have a short section permanently mounted, and then they have their own connector system so that then the extensions I could get from them, and it would slide in and pin in with FastCap's connecting system. So that's just going to be an option. This is going to be the primary, building it myself and yourself. But if you want to go for some extra money and get all aluminum, you'll be able to just swap that out without modifying the bench, which was my goal in designing this fence to match this one. So I had this first, and then I designed this so that they would be interchangeable. Well, there we go. You've had a quick look in the Smart Woodshop. I've got to get onto this. I'm making a lot of progress. I want to get this done and get it up and available. I've got so many of you that are wanting the plans and waiting to get these. So I promise, as soon as I can get them up, I will let you know. Hey, thanks for dropping into the Smart Woodshop. If you like these videos, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell so you'll know when I drop a new video. Give me a thumbs up and share the channel with others. And if you do want a set of the current Total Station plans, or one of my workbench plans, or the Smart Woodshop plans, you can click on the link right here at the end of this video or in the description down below. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Have a great day.